Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and we're here to talk about the Epiphany, which is today, and also the lunar cycles and how that plays a major role in determining when Easter is. So today is January 6th, is the Epiphany. Here in New Orleans, we call this 12th night because it's the 12th night of Christmas. It's also known as King's Day. And the Epiphany happened when the three magi, the three wise men, the magi were following the star. So many believe that they were astrologers or astronomers because they were using the night sky. Um, and they were following the star to where it was prophesied that the Savior would be born. And on this night, they were visited in a dream saying today was the day the baby has been born. So this is known as the Epiphany. And it's always this part of the year is always one of my favorite times. And whether you are religious or not, um, it is something to track during the winter. It is something to do. So what's interesting is that the 25th, when they say baby Jesus was born, that is based off the solar calendar because it is so many days after the winter solstice. And so they knew, and that's whatever, you guys know, it's up for debate. But anyway, it's always they have the winter solstice, it's the return of the sun, if you will, and then the sun was born. So, but Easter is always based on the lunar calendar. And the Jewish calendar is based on the lunar calendar. So what they do is once they determine Easter Sunday is always the first Sunday after the full moon that occurs on or after the spring equinox. So every year they look to see when the spring equinox is, and then they look to see when the next full moon is right after that. And that Sunday is Easter. And then they count back 7.5 weeks, and that is Ash Wednesday. So what's interesting about it, so this year in New Orleans, everyone's like, we have a quick Mardi Gras season. We have a quick Mardi Gras season. The Epiphany is always January 6th because it's always the 12th, the 12th day after Christmas, right? But depending on where the moon cycle is, that's what sets where Easter is. And when Ash Wednesday hits, then we have the Lenten season to move us into Easter. So right now, if you've been following us, or following me, or if you're in the moon motivation class, which a new one starts with the dark moon in Capricorn on the 11th. And if you're interested in that, just reach out to me, email me. We do manifestations with the moon cycles. But right now, the way the sun and the moon are playing out with each other. So right now, the sun is in Capricorn. And what happens is the moon goes through her cycles for 30 days. Well, before, what was happening is when the sun would go into an astrological season, we would have a dark moon. So the sun would move into, we're just going to use Capricorn because we're in Capricorn season right now. So the sun would move into Capricorn, and then the first moon we would have would be the dark moon, where the sun and the moon met up together. But what happens is over time, the moon starts getting, it keeps moving. I wish I had like a more technical term to say this. And so where we're at is that now when we start an astrological season, we have a full moon starts immediately with the astrological season. And that will happen until it gets moving further and further away until when we move into an astrological season, it'll start with a dark moon again. But right now we're having our full moons at the beginning. So when the sun right now, that's in Capricorn, The sun moved into Capricorn, and the very first moon we had was the full moon in Cancer, right? Because full moons is when the moon and the sun are opposite each other. So, so the sun moved into Capricorn, and the sun and the moon are opposite each other in a few days after that. So we have full moon of Cancer, which is the opposite of Capricorn, and then it goes back around and it's meeting up, and then we have the dark moon of Capricorn, and then the sun will move into Aquarius. Once the sun moves into Aquarius, we'll have the full moon of Leo, because Leo's the opposite of Aquarius. I know that because I'm an Aquarius. Um, and then we'll have the dark moon of Aquarius, and then it'll move into Pisces. So because we're starting with full moons at the beginning of astrological seasons, that's what's making this Lenten season, I mean, not Lenten, this was making Carnival season so short before we get to Lent. Now, last year, when we had it where the sun moved into an astrological season, the first moon was a dark moon, and then we had to go those 12 more days to get to the full moon. We didn't have, we had Fat Tuesday in March. Okay, this year we have Fat Tuesday in February. We have it February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. So it just depends how these cycles go and how the moon is cycling with each astrological season. And I almost want to say like it's every other year. So like we'll have a quick Mardi Gras this year, and then next year we should have a later Mardi Gras. Don't hold me to that, because sometimes maybe I think it's like quick Mardi Gras, medium Mardi Gras, late Mardi Gras, right? Because it just depends on the cycle of the moon and where it's landing. But I do think it's really interesting, though, that the way we determine Easter is always the full moon after the spring solstice. So, or excuse me, the spring equinox, sorry. So, happy Epiphany, happy Carnival season, for you guys that celebrate Carnival season. Joan of Arc parade kicked things off in the French Quarter tonight, so I saw a bunch of revelers coming back. I was on Magazine Street. One more thing, I guess we could say. So now that we know that the moon determines Easter Sunday, because it's the full moon after the spring equinox, we could talk a little bit about the king cake. So when the Magi got to Jerusalem, King Herod was there. King Herod also knew about this prophecy that there was going to be a great king born, right? King, right? And King Herod had all the boys murdered, right? When he found out that these babies were being born, because he didn't want to be overthrown. He wanted to be the greatest king. So, Mary and Joseph, they headed out to Bethlehem. So anyway, everyone in Jerusalem knew that the time had to be near, because the three magi showed up, and they were from foreign lands. They didn't look like anyone they'd ever seen before, and they were bearing these beautiful gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And King Herod was like, "Hey, buddy, what you guys up to?" And they were like, "Oh, just passing through, just whatevs." And so then they also were told in another dream that they were being followed by King Herod's soldiers. So what they did was that they went in a circle to confuse the soldiers, and that's why we have the king cakes around, because that represents confusing Herod's soldiers. And that's also why the baby is hidden in the cake, because they didn't want King Herod to find baby Jesus. But as we know, they did find him, and they gave him the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which that is the colors of the king cake. Justice is purple, faith is green, and gold is power. So the frankincense, the gold that they gave baby Jesus. Well, let me see, I wrote it down. The gold was to represent his kingship. The frankincense represents his presence on earth. As we know, frankincense, we use that to heal and cleanse things. And then myrrh works with giving reverence with the dead. They used myrrh with the dead. So I think it was really beautiful that these gifts um, represented, being present, the afterlife, and yeah, the gold kingship, but or power, but um, maybe just being regal. I don't know. The gold part doesn't really translate that well for me as much as the frankincense and myrrh. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys learned a little something. If you guys are interested in Moon School, please reach out. You can email me at independentstreetnola at gmail.com. I'll put it below. And again, I've already ate my first piece of king cake, so one of many for the season. You guys, I'm sure you could find it, order online if you want. And if you can get down to Mardi Gras, please come down and see us. The city's it's a beautiful time down now. Everyone's just in a festive mood. And if you have time, look to see. This is like it helps um break up the monotony of winter, knowing that these things are based on the stars and the lunar calendar. And we go through these rituals, right, to get us through the winter, whether you are, Christian or not. This is just something that's going on that maybe you can track as well, just to, like I said, break up the monotony of the dark. Okay, you guys, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can reach me on Instagram, YouTube, or my websites at independentstreetnola.com or independentstreettarot.com. It's the same one. And of course, always at Season and Ritual. Till then, we're going to start revving up the new year because January is going to be a big month with Pluto moving into Aquarius. So we'll get more active on the channel. All right, guys. Thanks for all your support. See you soon.